Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're going to be continuing Autonomous Territory Friday and take a look at Greenland. Greenland is currently working toward independence politically. Who knows if it will actually happen? If it does, it's not going to be anytime soon. Greenland is a part of Denmark. It's an autonomous region within Denmark, which means it has its own government and its own rules and functions, but it's within the Kingdom of Denmark. So we're going to look at all the pictures in this book, like this picture of this kindly man here in this fuzzy hat. And I'm going to read all the boxes to you. So let's just dive right in and learn more about Greenland. Look at this whale tail. I should also note that the language of Greenlandic, is one of those that how it's spelled out in the Latin alphabet is not at all how it sounds. So forgive me if I mispronounce things. There's a lot of sounds they have in Greenlandic that are not in English, and they're spelled in an interesting way. So I may mispronounce some things. Actually, I know I'm going to mispronounce some things, but we're going to move on from that. I'm going to read you this chapter, the little introduction, Greenland Today. In many ways, Greenland is a study in contrasts. It's the world's largest island, but it has one of the sparsest populations of any place on Earth. It has no big cities, but it does have a rich culture and artistic tradition. It's technically part of the Kingdom of Denmark, but its people govern themselves. Also, despite its name, little here is green. In fact, most of the island is covered in ice. However, while this might seem inhospitable, people have lived on Greenland for more than 4,000 years. The vast majority of the population is Inuit, with some people of European descent. Tourism isn't a huge industry, but people do visit, often to enjoy the unique wilderness and wildlife. The land. Greenland covers about 836,331 square miles. That's bigger than the countries of Belgium, France, Germany, Great Britain, Greece, Italy, Spain, and Switzerland combined. It's also 3 times the size of the U.S. state of Texas. Look out and look at all that snow. Most of the island, more than 4/5, is covered by an enormous permanent sheet of ice. In places, this ice is up to 10,000 feet thick. Only the coasts are mostly bare of it. About 2/3 of the island lies in the Arctic Circle. Because of its location, Greenland has 24 hours of sunlight in the summer and near complete darkness in the winter. That doesn't mean summers are warm, however. It doesn't get much warmer than 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and winters can be as cold as -30 degrees Fahrenheit. The people. About 57,000 people live in Greenland. This gives it one of the lowest population densities in the world. However, because people don't live on the huge percentage of land covered by the ice sheet, the population is concentrated on the coasts, with most people living along the west coast. Greenland doesn't have big cities. The island's biggest town and capital, Nuuk, has a population of only about 18,000 people. Other towns include Sisimiut, the population of about 5,500 people, Ilulissat, and Qaqortoq. I'm trying. That IL is like a and the double L is like a but Ilulissat is the best I can do. Nearly 90% of Greenland's people are Inuit, an indigenous people of the Arctic. Many of them have European ancestors as well. Most of the other people of Greenland are Danish, with many of them born in Denmark. The history. People likely came to Greenland from North America about 4,500 years ago. However, this group disappeared at some point, as did the people of the Dorset culture, who followed them around 600 BCE. By the 10th century CE, the people of the Thule culture spread across Greenland, and their descendants still live there today. I'm assuming that's pronounced like the Icelandic, the like between a TH and a T sound in English, Thule culture. I'm not sure. Europeans came to Greenland in the 1700s, though Norse settlers had lived there earlier. Denmark made the island a colony in 1775, and a little more than 200 years later, Greenland became its own nation within the Kingdom of Denmark. As Greenland moved into the 21st century, there's been a greater push for more independence. The culture. Many of Greenland's cultural traditions come from the Inuit people. Traditions may also be related to those of Denmark and other Scandinavian countries. Artistic traditions include the soapstone carving and drum dancing of the Inuit. Music also has both Inuit and Danish roots. Hunting and fishing are very important culturally. The Inuit have been hunters for thousands of years, and reindeer hunting is especially significant even now. The traditional costume, so pretty, so colorful. Many hunters still use traditional methods and tools. The small boat called a kayak is an Inuit invention and is still an important symbol for the culture today. Sports are also popular in Greenland. People enjoy soccer, called football in Greenland, skiing, volleyball, table tennis, and more. Residents also take part in many other activities that are popular in countries around the world, such as watching movies, going to restaurants with friends, and shopping. The future. While life in Greenland follows traditions that are many years old, times are changing in some ways. Fishing is still the main industry, but as Greenland copes with issues of overfishing and fewer related jobs, other industries, such as tourism and mining, have been growing. The number of overnight visitors from other countries has grown by more than 50% since 2000. Climate change is a big issue for Greenland, with such a massive part of its land covered by ice. The ice sheet is melting at a rate of about 0.04 inches a year. If the whole sheet were to eventually melt, it would lift sea levels by about 23 feet. Additionally, the thinner ice and warmer climate may be allowing a kind of dark algae to grow on the ice. The algae then absorb more sunlight, which makes the ice melt even faster. These changes affect the Inuit culture as well. Species endangered by climate change can't be hunted as much due to both dwindling numbers and measures that may be put in place to protect them. Changes in the ice make it more dangerous to hunt, and the weather is becoming more unpredictable. Greenland's people are working to both adapt to their land's changes and keep their traditions alive. Groups are monitoring the ice sheet and working to reduce climate change. Only time will tell how Greenland's future will look. And here's a picture of Nuuk, the capital city. That's their main church here. It's the, I forget its name, but I'll show it in the middle. It's like the Nuuk Cathedral, I believe. This is the Jakobshavn Glacier from above, it looks like. Gigantic and melty. Icy. Here's the Arctic Circle, the North Pole, the magnetic North Pole where all our compasses point to. And here's Greenland. And let's see. I was going to be like, and there's Denmark, but it's not even on this map. Interesting. Anyway. Fjords. What's a fjord? First, how do you pronounce it? It's fjord. A fjord is a narrow inlet of the sea that can stretch far inland. Fjords are created by glaciers, generally a very long time ago, and can be very deep. Sognefjord, a fjord in Norway, is about 1,300 feet deep. Fjords formed when huge glaciers eroded or wore away the land far below sea level as they moved across the landscape. After they melted, seawater moved in. The sides of a fjord are often very steep. Both the east and west coasts of Greenland have many deep fjords. They are generally shallower near the ocean end of the fjord. And there's a very beautiful one with the bright sun right there. Let's see, the Northeast Greenland National Park, the world's largest national park, and most of it looks like this. Another very beautiful picture here of an iceberg, perfectly framing this sailboat here. And this is the midnight sun. This is the middle of the night in the summer. There's a box here about communities of Greenland. While Nuuk is the largest of Greenland's communities, it's not the only one. The next biggest is Sisimiut, which has a population of about 5,500 people, and it's growing. Sisimiut is a shipping port with an airport and a growing center of industry. Ilulissat is the third largest community with about 4,700 people. It's known for its icebergs, and it's a tourist draw because of that. It's also known for its dog sledding. In fact, it was once said that there were just as many sled dogs in Ilulissat as there were people, although this isn't true anymore. Qaqortoq is the biggest community in southern Greenland. It has about 3,000 people, and it's near some of the more famous Norse ruins on the island. Asiat is about the same size and is located on the west coast. It's the home of Greenland's Midnight Sun Marathon. That's a good idea. How fun is that? Here is a caribou. Big old antlers there. Let's see, tradition versus conservation. Whaling is a big part of Greenland's traditions, especially for the Inuit people. It's part of their identity, their myths, their communities, and their history. In fact, it may even be part of their DNA. Some studies have shown that the bodies of Inuit people burn fats, as from whale blubber, more effectively than others do. Greenland can support very little agriculture, so the Inuit do not traditionally eat many plants. They use all parts of the whale for food, for daily tools and crafts, and for arts. However, as whales have become more endangered, some governments and environmental groups have acted to protect species that are in trouble, both from climate change and years of overhunting. This conflicts with the Inuits' traditional way of life, threatening their food sources and their culture. The Inuit have historically acted in a sustainable way toward wildlife, with a cultural respect for the animals they hunt and recognition of the need to keep populations healthy. However, commercial whalers have overhunted many species of whales for a long time, putting them at risk. Here is a little lemming. Very cute and fuzzy little guy. Smaller creatures of Greenland. Because of Greenland's cold climate and its nature as an island, there aren't as many small creatures as are found elsewhere. There are about 1,200 species of insects, spiders, and other tiny animals. There are about 70 types of spiders, including the Greenlandic thin-legged wolf spider. This critter, about 0.4 inch long, doesn't make webs but chases insects on the ground. Beetles include the diving beetle, which lives in lakes throughout Greenland. There are 5 kinds of butterflies, including the northern clouded yellow butterfly and the distinctive yellow and black Arctic bumblebee. Get ready for a cute overload. Aww, sweet. Baby seal, so cute. And we've got lots and lots of melty ice here, very concerning. Anyway, Ellesmere Island in Canada, which is, here's my arm, it's by my elbow on this map, but it's believed that people crossed that onto Greenland, and that's how people came to the island. There's a kayak out on the water. It's a little tiny iceberg right there. Tiny. Is there such a thing as a tiny iceberg, I suppose? Stories of Eric the Red. I don't think it talks about it here, but he founded the first community of people on Greenland that we have written records of, and he was a Viking. Let's read some stories about him. He was very eccentric as well. There are a few records of the stories of Eric the Red, who was a bit of a larger-than-life figure with his checkered history and vivid name, which was probably given to him because of the color of his hair and beard. He was the son of another Viking, Torvald Asvaldsson, who had also been exiled for manslaughter, apparently something of a family tradition. Torvald and his family thus moved from Norway to Iceland, from which Eric would be banished years later for the same reason. Both the Saga of Eric the Red and the Book of Icelanders, written in medieval times, share stories of Eric the Red. He was also the father of another famous Norseman, Leif Erikson, who grew up in Greenland and was one of the first Europeans to reach North America. And this is an old Viking church. Leif Erikson actually brought Christianity to Greenland and Iceland. And his mom actually built the first church, not this one. I think there's a picture of a recreation of it later, but this one still sort of remains. Here's a big old chunky walrus. He's there because they would use the tusks for ivory to make art and to trade. A wedding in the old church. The last recorded sign of the Norse in Greenland is a series of letters written between 1409 and 1424. The letters speak of the marriage of Thorstein Olafsson and Sigrid Bjornsdottir on September 16, 1408, at the church of Falsifjord in Greenland. The couple had apparently been traveling from Norway to Iceland when their ship had gone astray. They settled in Greenland and married there. In fact, we also know that the couple is one pair of settlers who also made it out of Greenland safely. They later lived in Iceland, and for some reason, decades later, had to prove they'd married in Greenland. Fortunately, there were letters to tell the tale. Ooh, a narwhal. They would also trade for these, which the Europeans thought were unicorn horns. Race to the North Pole. Greenland, with its mostly Arctic location, played an important role in attempts to reach the North Pole in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. People had once believed that the island extended over the pole itself. This isn't true, but small islands off Greenland are the closest solid ground to the pole. A number of explorers took expeditions to Greenland in their pursuit of being the first to the North Pole. These included Frederick Albert Cook and Robert E. Peary of the United States, both of whom claimed to have reached the pole first in 1908 and 1909, respectively. Both claims are controversial. The first verified trip to the North Pole was by Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen in 1926. All right, this is the house of Hans Au. Apparently this is pronounced Au, which, okay, let's roll with it. Au's legacy. I'm okay. A story, possibly just a legend, about Hans Au says that he changed the "Give us today our daily bread" line in the Christian's Lord's Prayer to "Give us today our daily seal," as the Inuit weren't familiar with bread. This tale is only part of the man's legacy, for better or worse, throughout Greenland. I should note that he was a missionary who came to Greenland and converted everybody there to Christianity, since the Norsemen who lived there who became Christian all moved out, like it said later. So he converted the Inuit, and this was his house, I should have said. The oldest house in Greenland. A statue of Au that stands in the Greenlandic capital of Nuuk was vandalized in June 2020 as anti-racism protests swept around the world after the death of George Floyd in the United States. People splashed red paint on the statue and wrote "decolonize" on it. The local government considered taking the statue down and putting it in a museum, but a public vote on the matter led to the statue staying where it is for the moment. The Sledge Patrol. There's some very good dogs right here. Let's read about them. In summer 1941, one of the Greenlandic governors started a special patrol to keep an eye on Greenland's coasts in case the Germans tried to land. This was the Sledge Patrol, or Serious Dog Sled Patrol. Hunters from Greenland and Denmark and their dog teams patrolled the northeastern coast, watching for signs of invaders. In 1943, patrol members found a German weather station on Greenland's Sabine Island. They were able to report it, and it was destroyed by bombers. One member of the patrol, Eli Knudsen, was killed by Germans and became the only Dane to die in Greenland during the war. Other attempts at establishing German weather stations were also discovered and repelled. The Serious Dog Sled Patrol still exists today as an elite Danish military unit. Speaking of World War II, here's a bunch of abandoned military gear just left to rust away in the wilderness. And celebrating National Day in Nuuk. Here's the flag of Greenland. I think it's really neat. That's a great design. It's supposed to be the setting sun and the ocean and ice and things. That's neat. So this guy is the current Prime Minister, who is Mutbi Ayu, I think is how you say his name. It's similar to the other guy before. Wow, Greenlandic is very hard to pronounce. This is the City Hall in Qaqortoq. And this is Queen Margrethe of Denmark, Queen Margrethe II. So she's technically the Queen of Greenland as well. The Prime Minister, here we go. Mut Borup Ayu was born March 11th, 1987 in Nuuk. He's been the chair of Inuit Ataqatigiit since 2018 and a member of Inatsisartut since 2015. He's the youngest Prime Minister of Greenland so far. Ayu's Inuit Ataqatigiit party has strongly supported both independence and environmental matters in Greenland. It's against a big international mining project that had been planned for the island. There are two issues that have been important in this election campaign, Ayu said after the election. People's living conditions is one, and then there's our health and the environment. Got a fishing boat out here by the ice. And some more fishing boats. By the Royal Greenland plant, it says. Here's a seal skin drying out in the weather. Some whaling boats, too, for the traditional whale meat. And the coastline. Visiting Greenland. Over the past 15 years or so, tourism has grown a great deal in Greenland. Greenland Tourism, a national tourist council, was established in 1992 and has been promoting trips to the island. Big draws are sailing tours, wildlife tours, dog sledding, and trips to the Norse ruins. The photo of the right shows a group of tourists viewing the sights of this island. Very cool. Greenland Tourism, if you're watching, I would like to go. I would make so many wonderful videos about Greenland. Just throwing that out into the universe. Many visitors to Greenland are from Denmark, but numbers from the United States are growing. The COVID-19 pandemic halted that growth, but tourism was expected to rebound as conditions got better. Tourism advocates are working to be sure that they build the industry in a sustainable and safe way. There's a big focus on environmental concerns and local jobs. See, container ship right there. Royal Arctic Line. And a big old flow from a glacier going out into the water. So scenic. This is pretty much what like the majority of Iceland looks like. Isn't it beautiful? And an ice sheet cracking apart, you can see here. Charlotte's giving a page. Climate protesters. And big old icebergs, and you can see the cracks in them as they're about to into the water. Let's read about the National Snow and Ice Data Center. The National Snow and Ice Data Center, or the NSIDC, is a U.S. research center that collects and analyzes information about polar regions, ice, carbon dioxide emissions, and weather systems. It also monitors and reports on Arctic and Antarctic sea ice. The center is funded by NASA. NSIDC has a website that records and shows data on Greenland's ice sheet in real time. It posts satellite images of the island and charts and statistics about melting ice. There's also information on snow totals, air temperature, and other weather details. Find the website at nsidc.org/Greenland-Today. Undercutting. Let's learn some science. Undercutting is a phenomenon that occurs when warm, salty water near the bottom of a fjord or waterway melts the bottom of a glacier, causing the ice at the surface to break apart. In early 2021, studies showed that many glaciers and deep fjords were losing ice because of undercutting. The biggest glaciers suffer the most from undercutting because deeper fjords let in more warm ocean salt water. This water is more dense than fresh meltwater from glaciers, which enters the fjords and then rises, taking some of the warm salt water with it. This water can melt the glacier's base. The biggest and deepest glaciers are undercut much faster than the smaller glaciers in shallow water, said Michael Wood, a researcher at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California. In other words, the biggest glaciers are the most sensitive to the warming waters, and those are the ones really driving Greenland's ice loss. There's some sweet walruses there. This one looks kind of grumpy. Sled dogs at risk. It might seem surprising that Greenland sled dogs are considered at risk of extinction. A distinct species, they traveled to Greenland about 1,000 years ago with the Thule people, and they're an important part of Inuit culture. As they rarely or never mix with other dogs, the breed is still genetically close to those long-ago travelers. The population of Greenland dogs dropped about 40% from 2002 to 2016. Reasons include the increasing use of snowmobiles instead of sled dogs, canine diseases such as distemper, and a drop in dog sledding as the Greenlandic ice continues to melt. The dogs can be expensive to care for, and not as many people keep them. Still, some people are working to preserve this ancient breed for the future. Greenlanders. Been a nice day out at the town. There goes some sled dogs. It looks fun. Some whale meat here. This is mink whale. Here's a drawing of an Inuit hunter hunting seals there. And here's some sealskin that you make from the hunted seals. And beautiful Greenlandic houses, so vivid against the snow and rocks and ice. By the numbers. According to the CIA World Factbook, nearly 40% of the people of Greenland are aged 25 to 54, followed by about 21% who are 0 to 14 years old, 15% who are 55 to 64, 14% who are 15 to 24, and 10% who are 65 and older. there are slightly more men than women. The median age is 34.3 years, 35.1 years for men, and 33.4 years for women. Life expectancy at birth is about 73.7 years, 71 years for men, and 76.5 years for women. Some more buildings in Nuuk. Very distinct architecture, right? I love it. There goes a bus. Let's read about the Greenland National Museum. The Greenland National Museum, based in a warehouse built in the 1930s, opened in the 1960s. It contains archaeological, historical, social, geological, and artistic exhibits, as well as records relating to the island's graveyards and other sites of historical importance. It also advises the government on archaeological excavations. The museum's highlight is the Kalakitsok Mummies exhibit, which includes the preserved bodies of 3 women and 1 child. These are half of the mummies found in northwestern Greenland in 1972. Archaeologists believe they date back to 1475 and were preserved by the cold temperatures in their tomb. Greenland Connected. Even the far reaches of Greenland have internet access, although it can be pricey. Still, it's getting faster and cheaper as technology improves. Service is provided through undersea cables, or in some remote locations, satellites. As of 2018, pretty much all of Greenland can get 4G access. Greenland is the internet service provider. Cell phones are common in Greenland. According to Visit Greenland, there are 61,700 mobile subscriptions there, more than there are people. This is Tsyurpaluk, a tiny little town out there, and apparently it's one of the most northern settlements in the world. We've got Kanhak, another one of the most northernmost settlements in the world, it says. I love the buildings in Greenland. Look how beautiful they are. And case in point, this is a little kindergarten. Isn't that sweet? It really looks like all the buildings are either built out of like old containers, like cargo containers, or they're wood, you know. But I like it. It's a look, right? Here's an Air Greenland plane at the airport, dropping off some tourists. The Nuuk Cathedral. I was right. The Nuuk Cathedral. Isn't that cool? This is the replica of the church that Leif Erikson's mom built. Eric the Red's wife. One of his wives. And this is Hans Ayu's statue that they talked about before. A crow is like eating it. It's probably just trying to grab some things for a nest. Here's some ivory carvings. They are called tupilaks. They're gorgeous. That's such a wonderful art style, I think. Very, very, very distinct. Drum and mask dancing. Once banned by the Christian missionaries to Greenland in the 1700s, drum and mask dancing is an important part of traditional Greenlandic culture and Inuit beliefs. Dancers and musicians kept the tradition going in secret after it was forbidden. The dance dates back about 4,000 years. Today, the dance is sometimes performed during festivals for the shortest day of the year. It's also performed before each meeting of Parliament. Musicians use a kilat, or frame drum, and dancers paint their faces, often in black, white, or red. Many are trying to further revive the tradition in Greenland now. And here's their drum they use. More gorgeous scenery here. It's so beautiful. An example of the language alongside Dutch there. Looks like the sign saying, "Do not drive here. You will get in the water." I'm not gonna try to bother saying the language. We'll skip those boxes for now. There's a cool stamp, and this shows you This is the Greenlandic word for Greenland. It's like Kalarit or something like that. And we're not going to mess with this either. But it talks about how supermarkets show items in the Greenlandic language, Danish and English together. Some comics. Sealskin boots. They're so pretty. It's really beautiful. And here's one of those ivory pieces being carved, the tupilaks. This is by Aron of Kangik, who was one of the first people to make what we consider today art in Greenland, like paintings and drawings and things like that, that has survived. Let's see, he was living in the 1800s. This is a writer, Niviak Corneliusen. The art of tattoos. Tattooing is an art form with roots deep in Inuit culture. In recent years, Greenlanders, especially women, have been taking back the art form, which was banned by the missionaries who arrived on their shores. They're keeping the meaning and techniques of the traditional tattoos alive, as are Inuit women in Alaska, Canada, and other locations around the world. In 2017, Angela Hovack Johnston published Reawakening Our Ancestors' Lines, Revitalizing Inuit Traditional Tattooing. Johnston is Canadian, but the traditional practices are similar in Greenland. Tattoo artists there, including Maya Siluk Jakobsen, are also working to bring back the traditional tattoos. And some gorgeous beadwork, just as colorful as their beautiful buildings, if not more so. Going out for some cross-country there. And a beautiful hike in the gorgeous scenery. Let's see. A shopping mall, I think. They're decorating for Christmas. Via coffee. There's a particular word in Kalahuset, kaffemik, which means literally via coffee. The kaffemik is a uniquely Greenlandic social gathering, one that may last all day and include dozens of people. This event may be held to celebrate something special, such as a birthday, or it might be just for the sake of getting together. A kaffemik, of course, also always includes coffee. You can tell I'm getting sleepy. I hope you're sleepy too. It also includes cake and other sweets, and it might feature food items such as soups or meats, sometimes a full meal. Invitations are through word of mouth or these days social media, and the event is casual. People come and go, staying for a while to talk and have a drink and bite to eat before making room for others. There's a little cafe here. A view from a kayak. That looks like so much fun. That would be a great place to go kayaking and mountain biking too, out in this gorgeous barren scenery. And lots of icebergs and a soccer pitch. Beautiful scenery to play some soccer, or football I should say. Celebration on National Day. A Greenland Halloween. Mitartut isn't really Halloween. It takes place on January 6th and has nothing to do with Halloween festivities elsewhere around the globe, but the traditions have a lot in common. Schools close early on this day. Children dress up in costumes during this Inuit festival and visit houses, singing and dancing for candy. Those taking part are called mitartok, which means people in disguise. Others have to guess who the children are. Sometimes the costumes can be quite scary. Sometimes adults dress up too. Look at this. This is an ice sculpture of the COVID-19 virus wearing a mask. Very clever. So many fish drying. That's a lot of fish. A plant here, it's the garden angelica that they use in cooking. And this kind of talks about it. There are many old traditional dishes with the usual Greenlandic ingredients, but some people are combining those ingredients in new and unique ways. Sushi lends itself to Greenlandic ingredients with its focus on fresh fish. People have experimented with a uniquely Greenlandic sushi with whale meat and local fish. French cuisine has had its own Greenlandic take as well. Chefs have experimented with bouillabaisse, or fish stew, with local fish and baked items seasoned with wild local plants. And there's a big chunk of whale meat there. And a nice little spread of some meats and cheeses. Yum, yum, yum. We got a spicy fish soup, which looks delicious. And so does this Greenlandic cake. Let's see the maps. Like, we really cannot comprehend just how much ice is on this island. It's so big. And then, of course, that's where Greenland is in the world. So that will be it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video relaxing and educational. Next Friday, we'll look at one more autonomous territory. And then we'll go back to autonomous territories in October, I promise. Thank you again, and have a very good night.